The stellar horizon's maintenance corridors weren't meant to be beautiful, but to Marcus Bennett, they were a symphony of efficiency. Each pipe, each circuit panel told a story, and right now, they were telling him something was very wrong. The radiation readings from sublevel 6 shouldn't have been fluctuating like this, not on a state-of-the-art Helios Corporation research vessel. "Run diagnostic sequence Delta 7 again," he muttered to his handheld scanner, careful to maintain the appearance of routine maintenance work. 3 weeks of undercover work as a system specialist had taught him the value of looking boring. The scanner beeped, confirming what he already knew: something in the restricted research section was generating impossible energy patterns. Marcus had infiltrated the stellar horizon to investigate rumors of illegal weapons research. The Terran Rights Commission had evidence suggesting Helios was violating multiple treaties, but they needed proof. What he hadn't expected was to find readings that defied known physics. A sudden spike in the scanner's output made him freeze. For just a moment, he felt something. A whisper of emotion that wasn't his own: fear, pain, and underneath it all, a desperate loneliness that made his chest ache. Then it was gone, leaving him wondering if he'd imagined it. The security patrol's heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor right on schedule. Marcus busied himself with a panel of environmental controls, nodding respectfully as they passed. Once they were gone, he pulled up the ship schematics on his tablet, overlaying them with his scanner's data. The anomalous readings centered on a section marked only as Project Oracle. His cybernetic eye, a souvenir from his military days, zoomed in on the restricted area security protocols. Top-tier encryption, motion sensors, and if he wasn't mistaken, psionic dampeners, equipment that cost more than most small colonies' annual budgets. Whatever Helios was hiding, they considered it valuable enough to protect with technology that officially didn't exist. That night, in his cramped crew quarters, Marcus compiled his findings for his handlers. The energy signatures matched nothing in known space, not human tech, not Centaurian, not even the mysterious artifacts left by the vanished precursor civilization. But they did bear a striking resemblance to theoretical models of telepathic phenomena. He was about to encrypt his report when his datapad chimed with new orders from Director Reeves: maintain position. New intelligence suggests critical breakthrough imminent. Priority now observation only. Marcus deleted the message with a frown. The director didn't know about the pain he'd felt, the cry for help that had slipped through what he now suspected were the psionic dampeners. Someone, or something, was suffering behind those security barriers. His military training said to follow orders. Wait, watch, report. But the part of him that had joined the commission to fight corporate abuse of power had other ideas. If Helios was torturing a sentient being for weapons research, every minute he delayed could mean more suffering. The next day, Marcus volunteered for Gamma Shift, the graveyard hours when the ship's corridors were nearly empty. He had already mapped the security patrol patterns, identified the blind spots in the sensor coverage. It would be tricky, but he could reach sublevel 6 without being detected. Whether he could get back out was another question entirely. At 0300 hours, dressed in standard maintenance coveralls and carrying his carefully modified toolkit, Marcus began his descent into the ship's restricted levels. Each security checkpoint required a different trick, a spoofed authorization code here, a looped camera feed there. He moved with purposeful confidence, knowing that hesitation attracted attention. The psionic dampeners grew stronger as he approached Project Oracle's location. The whispers of foreign emotion he'd felt earlier were completely silent now, replaced by a peculiar pressure behind his eyes. His cybernetic implant registered increasing power draws from the surrounding systems. He was about to attempt bypassing the final security door when it simply opened. Standing in the doorway was Dr. Victoria Kane, Project Oracle's lead researcher according to the personnel files he'd accessed. She didn't look surprised to see him. "We've been expecting you, Mr. Bennett," she said, her smile never reaching her eyes. "Or should I say, Agent Bennett? Please, come in." There's someone who's very eager to meet you. Marcus's hand moved toward the concealed stunner in his toolkit, but Kane shook her head. That won't be necessary. We both know you're here to help her. The question is, are you prepared for what that actually means? Behind her, through the doorway, Marcus caught his first glimpse of a containment chamber that pulsed with otherworldly light. And in that moment, despite all his training and experience, he realized he was completely unprepared for what he was about to discover. The containment chamber pulsed with a soft azure glow that made Marcus's cybernetic eye glitch. At its center, suspended in a field of shimmering energy, floated a being unlike anything he'd ever encountered. Her form was humanoid but ethereal, skin like opalescent silk, hair that moved as if underwater, and eyes that held the depth of ancient stars. Dr. Kane's heels clicked against the polished floor as she approached the chamber. Agent Bennett, meet Naralai. The last of the Luminari. Her tone carried the same clinical detachment one might use to describe a particularly interesting lab specimen. She's been helping us understand the true potential of psychic abilities. The alien's eyes fixed on Marcus, and suddenly the pressure in his head crystallized. The next 20 hours were a dance of careful preparation and deception. Marcus moved through his assigned tasks, letting Kane and her team believe he was cooperating while he and Naralai worked on their real plan through their growing telepathic connection. His cybernetic eye recorded everything, evidence that would eventually expose Helios's crimes, assuming they survived long enough to use it. The field harmonics are the key. Naralai's thoughts guided his hands as he made subtle adjustments to her containment systems during a maintenance check. They think they contain my abilities, but they amplify them instead. Their ignorance is our advantage. Marcus nodded slightly, appearing to focus on his diagnostic tablet. Years of covert operations had taught him to sub-vocalize his responses, letting Naralai read his thoughts without him speaking aloud. The security response will be immediate. We'll have minutes at most once we start. Then we must ensure those minutes count. Through their connection, he felt her gathering her strength, preparing for what was to come. The price of freedom is often paid in chaos. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Marcus had identified a critical vulnerability in the containment field's power system, one that would force an emergency shutdown if the harmonics became dangerously unstable. The shutdown would only last seconds before backup systems engaged, but with Naralai's powers temporarily unleashed, seconds were all they needed. The harder part had been arranging their escape route. The stellar horizon was massive, with layers of security between them and the nearest shuttle bay. But Marcus hadn't spent 3 weeks mapping the ship's systems for nothing. He'd found maintenance tunnels, blind spots in the sensor network, and most importantly, a scheduled waste disposal sequence that would mask their energy signatures. As Gamma Shift approached, Marcus made his final preparations. His modified toolkit now contained everything they'd need: security bypasses, emergency breathing apparatus, and a few surprises for anyone who tried to stop them. All he needed was a distraction. He got one sooner than expected. Alarms blared throughout the research level, but not for them. Security breach in Sector 7, the ship's AI announced. All personnel report to emergency stations. Now. Naralai's mental voice surged with urgency. The paths align. Marcus didn't hesitate. His fingers flew across the containment field controls, introducing the carefully calculated instability. Warning lights flashed as the harmonics began to fluctuate wildly. He counted down in his mind, feeling Naralai's consciousness synchronized with his own. 3, 2, 1. The containment field collapsed in a cascade of sparking energy. Naralai dropped gracefully to the floor, her otherworldly form seeming to flicker between solidity and pure light. The moment her feet touched the ground, every electronic device in the room went haywire. Screens cracked, circuits overloaded, and the security doors slammed shut. The way is clear, she projected, her mental voice stronger than ever without the dampeners. But we are not alone in our escape. Marcus's cybernetic eye picked up multiple heat signatures converging on their position. What do you mean we're not alone? The other one awakens. The one they took before me. She breaks free of their bonds. That explained the security breach. There was another prisoner, someone else Helios had been keeping secret. Before Marcus could process this new complication, the door behind them burst open. Dr. Kane stood there, flanked by security forces in full tactical gear. I had such hopes for you, Agent Bennett, she said, her earlier pretense of civility gone. Terminate them both. But as the security team raised their weapons, something extraordinary happened. Naralai stepped forward, her form blazing with internal light, and raised her hands. The armed men froze in place, their minds caught in her telepathic grip. Run! They ran. Through corridors that twisted in impossible ways as Naralai's powers warped local spacetime. Past stunned crew members who would later swear they saw nothing but shadows. The ship's security systems went berserk, unable to track targets that seemed to exist in multiple places at once. They were halfway to the shuttle bay when they heard it, a psychic scream so powerful it brought them both to their knees. Marcus felt Naralai's shock and recognition pulse through their connection. Sister. The word carried centuries of history, of loss and hope and fear. There was another luminary on board, one who had been held captive even longer than Naralai. And now she was free, her powers unleashed, her mind twisted by years of torture. We can't leave her, Marcus said, knowing what Naralai would say even before she thought it. No. We cannot. But facing her will cost us our best chance of escape. Marcus checked his tactical display, watching security teams converging from multiple directions. Then we better make it count. Which way? Naralai's response came with a surge of fierce determination. Follow the pain. Follow the rage. Follow the breaking of chains. Together, they turned away from their planned escape route and headed deeper into the ship's bowels, toward a confrontation that would change everything. The sound of boots and energy weapons charging echoed behind them, but Marcus hardly noticed. His world had narrowed to the rhythm of their running feet and the brilliant presence of Naralai beside him, as they raced to prevent one liberation from becoming another catastrophe. The deeper they ventured into the stellar horizon's restricted levels, the more Marcus's cybernetic systems went haywire. Reality itself seemed to warp around them, corridors stretching and bending as two immense psychic powers clashed. Naralai's presence blazed beside him like a star, while ahead, another consciousness raged like a supernova. Varalai, Naralai's thoughts carried ages of sorrow. My sister burns with madness. They broke her mind trying to break her will. Emergency lighting cast everything in crimson shadows as they approached a massive research chamber. Bodies of security personnel lay scattered about, alive but unconscious, their minds overwhelmed by psychic backlash. In the chamber's center, suspended in a maelstrom of telepathic energy, floated a figure both beautiful and terrible. Varalai's form flickered between physical and ethereal, her silver skin crackling with power. Unlike Naralai's subtle luminescence, her sister blazed with raw energy. Her eyes, when they fixed on them, held no recognition, only pain and rage accumulated over years of torment. The experiment succeeds beyond expectations, Dr. Kane's voice echoed from overhead speakers. She'd retreated to a secure command center, watching through surveillance systems. The combination of their powers is unprecedented. With proper conditioning, they could revolutionize warfare itself. Sister, Naralai projected, stepping forward. Remember who you are. Remember the songs of home. Varalai's response was a psychic blast that would have shattered a normal human's mind. Marcus staggered, saved only by his cybernetic implants and Naralai's protective presence. The chamber's reinforced walls groaned under the pressure of clashing telepathic energies. She can't hear you, Marcus realized, his augmented vision analyzing Varalai's erratic energy patterns. They've got her connected to some kind of psychic amplification system. It's overloading her mind. Then we must reach her another way. Naralai's form began to shine brighter. The deepest bonds cannot be broken, only forgotten. Help me remind her. Through their connection, Marcus felt Naralai drawing on his strength, using his cybernetic systems as a bridge. His artificial eye picked up energy signatures he'd never seen before as the sisters' powers intertwined. Memories flooded his consciousness, not his own, but theirs. Two young Luminari, dancing among the crystal spires of their homeworld. Learning the sacred songs that shaped reality itself. The horror of watching their civilization fall to fear and greed. Centuries of separation, each believing the other lost forever. Fascinating readings, Kane's clinical voice cut through the moment. Security teams, converge and contain. Use lethal force if necessary. Marcus heard doors cycling open, boots on metal floors. But before anyone could act, Varalai screamed, a sound that existed simultaneously in physical and psychic space. The amplification system overloaded, panels exploding in cascades of sparks. Released from its influence, she dropped to the floor. Sister? Naralai approached cautiously. Do you know me? Varalai looked up, her eyes clearing. I remember. The songs. Home. You. Her thoughts were weak, fractured, but present. What have I become? A weapon, Kane's voice held satisfaction. The perfect weapon. And now that we know it's possible. Security teams filed in, weapons raised, surrounding them. Your escape attempt has provided exactly the data we needed. The next generation of subjects will be even more successful. Marcus's tactical training screamed that they were trapped. Even with both Luminari free, they were surrounded, outnumbered, and Varalai was barely conscious. But as he reached this conclusion, he felt something extraordinary through his link with Naralai, not fear, but a fierce joy. They understand nothing, her thought came with crystalline clarity. The greatest power of our people was never force, but harmony. Before Marcus could process her meaning, Naralai reached for her sister. The moment their hands touched, reality shifted. The sisters began to sing, not with their voices, but with their minds. It was a song of their people, ancient and powerful, designed to be sung in unison by thousands of Luminari. But they were not alone in their song. Join us, Naralai's thought pulled at Marcus. Let your machine-touched mind be our bridge. Understanding dawned. His cybernetic systems, which had allowed him to connect with Naralai, could amplify and channel their power. Not for destruction as Helios had intended, but for something far more profound. The song built in his mind, harmonics beyond human comprehension channeled through circuits and synapses never designed for such power. Through his augmented eye, Marcus watched energy patterns cascade through the ship's systems. Not destroying them, but transforming them, creating something entirely new. Stop them. Kane's voice held real fear now. Stop them now. But it was too late. The song reached its crescendo, and for one eternal moment, every mind on the stellar horizon, human and Luminari alike, became part of a vast, harmonious whole. In that instant of connection, no lies could hide, no secrets could remain buried. Every crime Helios had committed, every truth they had tried to suppress, became known to all. The security teams lowered their weapons, many of them falling to their knees as the weight of understanding crashed through their consciousness. Above them, Kane's voice fell silent as she too experienced the full impact of what she had been part of. As the song faded, Marcus felt reality settling back into its proper shape, though somehow fundamentally changed. The sisters stood together, their light steady now, their minds healing in each other's presence. So, Varalai's thoughts were stronger now, touched with wry humor. What is your plan for getting us off this ship, human? The aftermath of the psychic revelation rippled through the stellar horizon like waves in a pond. Security teams stood down, crew members struggled to process their new understanding, and in the chaos, Marcus saw their chance. "The shuttle bay is 4 levels up," he said, his cybernetic eye already mapping the quickest route. "We need to move before Helios management sends reinforcements." They already approach. Varalai's thoughts were clearer now, though still bearing scars of her ordeal. 3 ships, heavily armed. They would rather destroy this vessel than let its secrets escape. Through the ship's viewports, Marcus could see the truth of her words. 3 Helios combat cruisers had dropped out of hyperspace, their weapon systems charging. The Stellar Horizon's crew, still reeling from the psychic revelation, scrambled to raise shields. "We cannot let more die for their greed," Naralai's mental voice carried steel beneath its usual gentleness. "The cycle of violence must end." Marcus felt the weight of the sisters' combined attention. "You have a plan." "We do," their thoughts came in unison. "But it requires trust. Complete trust." The ship shuddered as the first warning shots from the Helios cruisers struck their shields. Over the comm system, Kane's voice rang out, stripped of its former confidence. "This is Dr. Kane to all crew. Abandon ship. I repeat, abandon ship." The corridor filled with running feet as crew members rushed toward escape pods. Marcus noticed that none of the security teams made any move to stop them. The shared consciousness they'd experienced had changed everything. "Whatever you're planning," Marcus said, "we need to do it fast." The sisters joined hands, their forms beginning to shine with that otherworldly light again. "Your cybernetic systems can interface with the ship's controls. We need you to link us to the main computer core." Marcus understood their intent and felt a chill. "That much power, it could burn out my neural interfaces. Maybe worse." "Yes," Naralai acknowledged. "We would not ask if there was another way." Another blast rocked the ship. Through his tactical display, Marcus saw the shields weakening. Dozens of escape pods were already launching, carrying crew members to safety. On the command deck, even Kane had fled her post. He made his decision. "The core access is this way." They ran through emptying corridors, passing more crew rushing to evacuate. The ship's computer announced shield failures and hull breaches in a calm voice that belied their desperate situation. When they reached the core access chamber, Marcus didn't hesitate. He interfaced his cybernetic systems directly with the mainframe, feeling the vast data streams of the ship's systems flow through his consciousness. The sisters stepped into position on either side of him, their hands on his shoulders. The moment they connected, Marcus felt his world explode into light. Their combined consciousness expanded through the ship's systems like a digital tsunami. Every circuit, every computer node became part of their shared awareness. Through the ship sensors, they could see the Helios cruisers preparing to fire their main weapons. Now, the sisters' thoughts merged with his own. "We show them true power." The song began again, but this time it wasn't just mental. Every speaker, every vibration panel, every piece of equipment capable of producing sound joined in the harmony. The stellar horizon itself became an instrument of luminary power, amplified by human technology and guided by their combined will. Energy cascaded through the ship's systems, not destroying but transforming. The shields shifted frequency, turning from simple barriers into something that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The weapon systems powered down, their energy redirected into new configurations that human science had never dreamed possible. When the Helios cruisers fired, their energy weapons met not resistance but transformation. The destructive force was caught in the new shield's harmonic matrix and changed, becoming part of the grand symphony. Through the ship's communications array, they broadcast the truth, not just to the attacking ships, but to every nearby system. The evidence of Helios's crimes, the reality of what they had attempted, and most importantly, the possibility of something better. A way for humans and Luminari to work together not through force but through harmony. Marcus felt his cybernetic system straining, circuits overloading as they channeled powers they were never designed to handle. But he held on, supported by the sisters' strength and his own determination. This was what he had joined the Commission to achieve: real change, real justice. The Helios cruisers hung motionless in space, their crews caught in the same revelation that had transformed the stellar horizon. In that moment of shared consciousness, old boundaries broke down.